Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Better Basics Podcast, the least pretentious fitness podcast on the planet. Dylan, it's great to see you as usual. Before we get started with the show today, I just want to give a quick shout out to Kirkland brand organic dried mangoes. They have been fueling me. They're a great snack. But have you ever mistakenly bought the non-organic ones that are just coated in sugar before?
Yeah, Trader Joe's. Trader Joe's has them too.
And they are so goddamn good. Like, these are good. Mango doesn't
Yeah,
really
they're
need a
they're
whole lot
candy.
of sweet, but I remember the one time I bought those accidentally, I was just housing them, just absolutely housing them. And then Matea got home, obviously the smarter half in our relationship, and she saw them, and she was like, "Why did you buy these?" I was like, "What do you mean?" She's like, you got candy, like you just bought
Yeah,
candy."
it's candy. Yeah. Dried fruit's good though. Yeah, I'm on
Dried
the
fruit
dried
is
fruit
good,
train.
but if you can find the kinds that are not sugar coated, it's probably for the best.
No sugar added. Yes.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Okay. So, uh, before we dig into the topic of the day, I wanted to give you and the listeners at home a little update on my personal experiment that I've been trying out. So, as I discussed a couple weeks back, I recently switched to the old flip phone. I wanted to, disconnect from social media, like eliminate the distractions that, inherently come with smartphones. And I was just all in on simplifying things in my life. um I'll tell you what, buddy, this iPhone that I have here in my hand makes life way simpler. So kudos to anybody that can pull off the dumb phone life. And I'm hoping that there are some things that I can learn from the experience. But god damn, one thing that I did learn is how grateful I actually am for my smartphone.
Yeah.
I mean, it really does make life so much more convenient. That's not to say, I mean, obviously, like, it has its issues, but like, uh, yeah, it was a really frustrating couple weeks, and I'm happy to be back on, in 2024. But as we'll actually discuss a little bit, as we get into our hot topic here, there's some things that we could all do to be a little bit more mindful, when we're using our smart devices.
Yeah, after you started doing it, I was paying more attention to the times when I was using a smartphone where I felt like I would be challenged to not have it. And I think where I landed is the hardest part would be receiving screenshots in internet links.
Huge. That's
Because
exactly that's exactly
on a
right.
flip phone, there's literally nothing you can do with that.
Right.
You almost have to reply and be like, "Sorry, I couldn't see what you sent."
Yep. Yeah, and I
So
even I
yeah,
even like, because I have the iPad, so I even had like this a really, I mean, so also shout out to everybody that tried to communicate with me over this 2 week period, because I would be, for situations like that, I'd be like, texting people on my iPad, which would come from like my iCloud account, and
hmm
then I could access those things on my iPad. But since those messages don't sync, it was like just another place, that
hmm
another set of messages that I had to check, another thing that I had to be connected to. And you're right. So, like, links were awful. Getting pictures was hilarious, because you remember how, like, pictures used to look, and it's just like, somebody sends you a picture and you can't even tell what it's of. It might as well,
yeah,
who knows what it is. But then, yeah, also like listening to music, huge. But then this one I knew was going to be the potential problem. I didn't realize I was going to hate it just as much as I did. But texting, and there's a bunch of people at home that are like, no, duh. But when I mean, you understand why text lingo got so casual,
Mm-hmm.
because you wanted to get in and out of that thing as quickly as you possibly could. And actually, I will say, for the sake of the English language, smartphones might actually be benefiting things, because if we had to go back, if we were still texting on the old QWERTY keyboard, you have to pick and choose what words you're going to say. You got to pick and choose what words you're going to bother to spell correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll say that my grammar's gotten a heck of a lot better. Actually take the time to spell out, full words and sentences. So yeah, it was brutal.
The lesson in this is that, like most technology, it's a bell curve, right? Like there are all sorts of benefits that get us to the top of that curve. And then there's a ton of detriments that come crashing down the other side. And what's really important is your relationship with it, which it sounds like you learned something about, and may lead us nicely into the hot topic for the day.
Yeah. So this topic is a CNN article titled "It's Time for Parents to Learn Manners Around Phone Use." And so, a child and adolescent psychotherapist, Dr. Katie Hurley, uh, wrote this article, and basically, just talked about, from her perspective as a therapist working with kids and teenagers, how often she heard from her clients that their parents were criticizing them for their phone use, when they, weren't doing anything to curb their own use. And, if there's one thing that kids can, I mean, and kids from a very young age can pick up on hypocrisy. And, I think this is one of those, like, do better parents moments where, we understand that, our smartphones and, computers, tablets, all this stuff have given us the opportunity to get so much done. It allows us, to quickly respond to emails and get things done more efficiently. Um, but you need to understand that when you're spending time with your kids, that that's not the time to be, dialed in with work. We already spend so much time working, and and the truth is, and I'm guilty of this too, where I'll find myself drifting off on my smartphone, and maybe the reason why I picked it up is because I needed to, reply to this text or send this email or look this quick thing up. But then, instead of spending the 30 seconds that it took to do that one thing, now I'm surfing social media, or I'm down a rabbit hole, or deleting emails, organizing my inbox, whatever the case that may be.
Mm-hmm.
And I took what should have been a 30-second task and turned it into a 10-minute one. And and kids see that. And so, I mean, I thought that this was a really interesting article, because this really is something that I think everybody needs to be really honest with themselves about.
Yeah, kids from a very young age are, through their adolescence are really just they're mimes. Like they just mimic and imitate what they see their parents do. I see it with my 9-month-old. Like I'll blow a raspberry, he'll blow a raspberry back at me.
Yeah,
Like it's reduced to a pretty simple action, but what's interesting is in this article they reference a study that was published in August where it's looking at higher levels of perceived parent digital technology use interfering with parent-child interactions. And I think the interesting word in there is perceived.
totally.
So, like, it's really important to be conscious of, like, you might not even think that it's really having an impact. You might think it is just checking a quick text message or quickly replying to an email, but it's really about how the child perceives your use of that technology. And in the study, they refer to it as parental technoference. And what they found is that parental technoference, or that perceived, I don't know why I'm having such a hard time saying that word tonight, parent digital technology use is associated with higher levels of childhood anxiety, inattention, and hyperactivity later in development. So just critically important that we're aware of this. Again, with my 9-month-old, I think about this. Like we'll be playing around on the floor and he's not even paying a ton of attention to me, and I'll try to sneak in a text message or something. Sure enough, he turns around and the first thing he's crawling for is the little black box on the ground. It's wild. Like it doesn't even, there's toys all around. It doesn't seem to have any draw to it for a 9-month-old. But sure enough, even at that age, so I'm thinking about it all the time and thinking about ways that I can create a better relationship with it. I've thought a lot about just keeping it in a specific room and going to that room anytime I want to use it. I think there's some strategies and habits we can develop to be better about this, but it's interesting. We recognize the risks that come with our children, especially as they grow older, being on their phones all the time and the risks of social media and the whatnot. But if we're not setting a good example for them, then how can we expect them to do any better, or how can we expect to ask them not to be doing the same?
Yeah, and one of the things that I like that they addressed in this article, involved active listening. Because you're going to get caught, and I don't even mean caught as like you're doing a bad thing, but there are going to be times where, justifiably so, you're going to be using your phone, or you've had a long day and you do just want to spend a few minutes scrolling. There's not necessarily inherent harm in that, but I think one thing that is very important is if your kid or partner or whomever comes up to talk to you while you're doing something stupid on your phone, it's really important to shut the phone off. If you're doing something important, say, hey, I'm finishing up, give me 2 seconds, give me 30 seconds, whatever it takes, let me finish up what I'm doing. Then you set your phone down, turn it off, maintain eye contact. I mean, how I know how annoyed I get if I'm talking to somebody and they're
Mhm.
looking up and down, at their phone. Imagine if that's your kid that you're talking to, and don't even have the presence to maintain eye contact with them. And then you practice your active listening skills. So, asking follow up questions, avoid interrupting, reflect on what you've heard, and then try to understand. Not necessarily just to respond, but you know, uh, we could all do a little better with this. But I think it's become super, super important. When you're communicating with your children, if you have your phone in your hand, I think it's a pretty simple place to start. Finish up what you're doing, set it down, and give your child your undivided attention, because they deserve it. And I think just as important, as you mentioned, they're mimics. And if you want them to be fully present in conversations, then you need to make sure that you're doing the same.
Yeah, I'm guilty of this in my around friends,
Totally.
where I'll be like responding to a text message or doing something on my phone. Somebody will have a whole ass conversation with me, and I didn't hear a word of it. Like it's so easy to get locked into that box.
Right.
So if it's possible with and around friends, it's certainly going to be possible around your loved ones, around your kids. Another strategy they talk about in the article that I like a lot is just making very specific designated time where you're not going to be anywhere near that technology, right? So whether it's a game night or a walk or playing, whatever it is, making intentional time where you don't even have your phone next to you. Rather, your phone is put away. And that time is specifically for that activity, being present with your kids, I think can be really impactful too, because it's so easy to just have it, right next to you on the couch, right in your pocket, wherever it is. And as soon as that thing buzzes or flashes, your intuitive response is to act on that. So getting it away altogether and making this designated time can be powerful too.
Yeah. This is, I mean, not even, it applies. But one thing that I've done now that I've transitioned back to the smartphone is, you got to go back and set up all, download all the apps again, and get all that stuff. And when you sign on, when you download an app for the first time, it asks, would you like, you know whatever, the sleeper fantasy football app to send you push notifications. And
Mm-hmm.
what I started doing is I turned push notifications off for
Mm-hmm.
every non-essential app that I have. Um, and that has been a really solid tool for my phone not being quite as interrupting. Now I'm not going to see, when Tyreek Hill gets, tweaks a hamstring in practice, but I know I'm going to check that, I'm going to check the sleeper app at some point during the day.
Yeah.
Like there's very little things that our phone has to tell us that is essential to, what we're doing. And all that other stuff, then, if you just turn those notifications off, it becomes a lot easier to ignore those things and then get back to them when you're ready.
Yeah, you can set up special permissions on your iPhone too. I do this during the workday. Um, you can turn on Do Not Disturb, for example, and you
Hmm.
won't get a single notification. During the workday, if I'm really trying to lock into some work or some flow, um, I noticed that even just seeing like something that my phone flash on the desk in front of me would pull my attention from what I was trying to do, and it could derail things at times. And there's ways now I have a work sort of under that Do Not Disturb umbrella. I click the work button. The only notifications I'll get are from Courtney, my wife, my colleagues, and other than that, that phone's not going to flash. And as soon as I'm done with my task that I really wanted to be locked in on, I can turn it off again. But just little strategies like that, because we're not here to suggest that this is easy. Even like these things are ingrained in us now.
Right.
So figuring out ways to build some resistance into using it can be really powerful.
Yeah, I mean, you got to find ways to let this technology work for you. And so I'm sure this is something that we will spend plenty more podcast hours talking about in the future. But now let's move on to the main topic of today's episode. So this week's topic is a big one. We're going to discuss our top 5 things that you need to be doing before you spend any more money on health and fitness. By optimizing these fundamental actions, it's going to set you up with an incredible foundation for health and fitness. But Dylan, I know you and I both know and are guilty of falling prey to the idea that all we're missing is, we're just one purchase away from being our perfect self. And so, we just need to make sure that before we go out and drop another $500 on whatever we have in the Amazon cart, that we're doing the big things, or as you've said a numerous amount of times on the podcast, taking care of the big rocks first.
Yeah, this is we talked about the 80-20 rule. This is the 20% of stuff that's going to yield 80% of results. And you're right. Like for years I rode this roller coaster where I'd get out of shape or be relatively unhealthy, and the first thing I'd do is walk into a GNC or go on Amazon or figure out something I could buy to either catalyze, better behavior or whatever it was. And it's so unnecessary. It's just crazy how quick we are to spend a few $100s here and there in the interest of improving our health, when in reality the biggest rocks are free, or they have some expense associated with them that we're spending in our course of life anyways. And when we do this, we're typically doing it with some sort of aim, right? We want to lose weight, we want to build some muscle, we want to feel better physically or mentally, we want to improve our health markers because we just went to the doctor, we're trying to prevent disease, live longer, better, etc., etc. And so we're going to talk about 5 things. And these 5 things, you should be doing these consistently, habitualize all of these things for a good period of time before you even consider adding anything on, searching for any smaller rocks. Before you buy a cold plunge or go to some
Yeah.
fancy place that has a sauna, or you buy a Whoop or an Oura Ring, or you try some diet or intermittent fasting, or you buy a bunch of supplements, or you go see a functional medicine doctor. All of these things that can cost a fortune, that are advertised and marketed to us as the magic fix for the problem that we have. These 5 inexpensive slash free simple things will have far more impact than any of those, and really all of those put together. And if you don't get these right, those extra things, they're not going to work
Right.
either. Like you have to, you almost, this is the foundation. You have to have this before you build the rest of the house, or the whole house is going to come down, or you won't be able to build the house anyways.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, the first one here, I mean, this is one of the biggest things that you can just do for your overall health and well-being. It's probably obvious to some people, but it still escapes them, and that is sleeping 7+ hours a night.
Yeah. I mean, we talk about it frequently on this podcast, and I
Hmm.
think it's because sleep doesn't really feel to most people like something that's associated with all of these positive health outcomes, or lack of sleep having all these negative consequences. It's just something we do so that we can get up the next day and go on with our lives.
Yeah, it's like
But
the rise and grind, like the
the rise
rise
and
and
grind.
grind mindset, which is like the stupidest thing that that American culture's come up with.
Yeah. But sleep is really the most important thing for your health. And it's hard for people. Like, we're busy, we're inundated with stimuli. You know, bright lights all around us can be difficult to sleep, or stressed out, whatever it is. But sleeping 7+ hours every night is is I'm gonna say the healthiest thing that you could do. Habitualizing a way to get 7+ hours a night. And there's probably a dozen plus people that are listening to this. Over half the listeners, however many are currently listening, um, that are saying to themselves, "No, I function great on 4 hours.
Yeah, I
I
only need
function great on
5.
5 hours." The fuck you do. Like, if you think that you've never gotten a good night's sleep, there are plenty of studies on this. It is a super subset of person that is able to function on that amount of sleep. And if you're not in that super subset, and I'm talking like you're as likely to need 5 hours of sleep as you are to be like an NFL football player.
Right.
Like, it is so incredibly unlikely. You gotta figure out how to make this happen. And I know it's tough. You got kids, whatever it is. So there may be seasons in your life where it's not as good. But if you're not getting your 7+ hours a night, you should not be spending another penny on any fancy supplement or any of those other things I mentioned, because it's not just so you're rested to do well the next day. If sleep deprivation affects your memory, your concentration, your ability to make decisions. Um, it's incredibly important for your immune system.
Yeah,
Lack
it
of
can
sleep
affect
will
weight.
lower. It can affect your weight gain. Like, it can affect your ability to build muscle. It
Definitely.
regulates your hormones. So sleep is really critically important for testosterone, which is important for building muscle. There are all of these benefits and risks that come with getting enough sleep and not getting enough sleep,
Right.
that go far beyond just feeling okay to get through the next day. And so this is like the boulder. This is the biggest rock, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
and this is a funny one to kick it off with, because not only is this something that, is super important before you spend money on, other health and wellness items, but this is also one of those things that there are a ton of things you could spend money on for,
It's true.
there are sleep supplements that you absolutely need, or you got to have this mask that now has Bluetooth capabilities, or whatever the case may be. When really what you need is morning sun. Yeah, as we've talked about on this podcast, getting morning sun, unfiltered morning sun in your eyes as soon as you possibly can in the morning, is going to help your body set its circadian rhythm. That is going to help you sleep longer and sleep better. So that's step one, totally free right there. But then, maybe something that could be worth getting is a set of blackout curtains, but that's absolutely minimal. And even then, you'll be able to survive without them. But just making sure that you have, I think, even more important than the blackout curtains, is having a nighttime routine. And that nighttime routine, people are going to hate this, but should realistically consist of avoiding screens an hour before you go to bed. And if you can honestly, if you can do that on a consistent basis and tell me that you are still having trouble sleeping, then there's that's a reason to go see a specialist
Hmm.
about it. But before you even consider doing that, if you are the type of person that sleeps with, your cell phone on your bedside table and you scrolling until you can't keep your eyes awake anymore, and then you wonder why you can't sleep. Well, guess what, buddy? I got a solution for you. Turn your phone on airplane mode, stick it out in the hallway, and give your body some time to relax before you go to bed.
Yeah, get some sunlight early in the day. Curb your caffeine use later in the day. Get off the screens within an hour of going to bed. Get in a dark, cool room. Wind down. Breathe. Whatever you need to do to regulate your nervous system. I'm not. We have blackout curtains, but I need like perfect dark, so I have a little $5 eye mask from Amazon.
Right. Yeah.
Courtney calls me a princess, but those work great.
Yeah.
I look ridiculous, but it doesn't matter.
Well,
So
but there's even studies that show the darker the better for sleep.
yeah, I think there's even like receptors in our skin,
Okay.
um,
There we go.
which is
That
kind of crazy to think
potentially
about, but
breaking news there.
yeah. So yeah, it really doesn't have to be that hard, and you might try this once, it might not work great, but get in a habit of it, and it'll work eventually. And to your point, Matt, if you're struggling with sleep beyond that, um, there could be something else going on, and at that point, it might be worth seeking some specialist help. But you know,
But do the phone
it's
thing.
it's
You got to do the phone thing.
it's huge. Yeah. Um, the other thing that's interesting about bringing this up first is that we know like most of what we're going to spend our money on is going to be to, lose weight, to build muscle, to improve our immune system, like all of these things. And none of that is going to work if you're not sleeping. Like you can take all the protein powder in the world, but if you're not getting adequate sleep, you're not going to build muscle.
Right. Your body
You can
builds muscle when you're resting.
Right. Like so this is just so important. We can't hammer it home enough. I know it's tough for some people, but life is about choices and priorities, and this should be at the top of your priority list.
Yeah, 100%.
The next topic on the list here is to move your body daily and to strength train at least once a week. Have some emphasis on getting strong, staying strong. Um, we know how important daily movement is. There are countless studies that show the longevity benefits of simply walking every day. So it doesn't have to be anything dramatic, right? There will be seasons to how well you're able to focus on training and all these different aspects of life. It could be as simple as a 30-minute walk a day and 100 push-ups a week. It could be as advanced as, a couple runs and 4 days a week of, really programmed strength training. But the point here is you got to get this big rock right. You have to be moving your body. It's really important for losing weight, for managing weight, for getting into that calorie balance. It's really important for moving the fluids through your body. Um, like movement is so critically important, especially early in the day. And we know how important building and maintaining muscle is for not only metabolism regulation, right? Like we know the more muscle you have, the more your body is going to require calories, therefore easier to manage your weight. But especially as we get older, we've talked about this before. Like I think about my parents all the time. I've got them, more focused on strength training now. And my dad texted me the other day and he was in a place that had a bar and he's a 200, 50-pound man and he's 66 years old and he did 5 pull-ups.
Wow.
Like
Holy
like
shit.
full blown pull-ups, dude.
Let's go, Dave.
Yeah. So, it's super important. Like that'll serve him incredibly well, especially as he gets into his 70s and his 80s. So, um, it doesn't have to be dramatic, it doesn't have to be grandiose, but move every day
Right.
and focus on building and maintaining muscle.
Yeah. So I mean, the it's kind of, there's 2 points here. It's move your body daily, and then some form of resistance training at least once a week. And those, when done together, the benefits are insane. But they both do have their distinct benefits that are worth mentioning. So the movement is super important for that joint health, flexibility, obviously, like mental health, metabolic function, as you said, Dylan, like the lymphatic fluids, like
Yep.
that's helpful for the immune system. But then the resistance training is essential for maintaining and building muscle mass. It's for maintaining and building bone density, and that's something that gets more and more important as we get older. And studies show that even a single strength training session a week can increase longevity and improve your quality of life. So this doesn't need to be this massive time buy-in either, but it's something that we need to make sure we're prioritizing. And so you could say, well, Matt, Dylan, you're telling me not to spend any money here, but you're telling me that I need to do resistance training. Well, listen up. We know that you have some equipment around. Everybody has some form of equipment that they can, that they've purchased already or been passed down or whatever. Maybe you have a gym membership that you never actually, got rid of. You have access to some form of fitness equipment, most likely.
Yeah, and at minimum, you have yourself.
Exactly. And if you don't, then you've got your body weight. And I'll tell you what.
That's what I mean by yourself.
Well, I know that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Right. I was clarifying what you meant there.
Okay.
You said something, I clarified it.
Got it.
We're having a dialogue here. But
Good. You're so good at conversation.
yeah.
Well done.
But so as Dylan said, you have yourself. What I said was body weight, and like there's so much that you can do with just yourself. You can do squats, you can do push-ups. You can if you're not strong enough to do push-ups on the ground, use an elevated surface like your couch or countertop. If that gets really easy, then elevate your feet, or or slow down the tempo. There are ways that you can make these things easier or harder depending on your fitness level. And then, once you start to get really competent and proficient at those exercises, then you can talk about, well, I need a fitness program to follow, or our gym membership would make things a heck of a lot easier. But, making those decisions, like movement wise, something as simple as just saying, I'm a stairs guy now. I don't take the elevator
Yeah.
anymore. That is a simple enough change that can end up having a profound impact on your life if it's something that you actually stick to and do, day after day. Uh, the next topic, or the next thing, is 3 servings of fruit, 3 servings of vegetables, 1 serving of legumes a day. We know that a diet that's rich in fruits, vegetables, and legumes is going to provide those adequate vitamins and minerals. Fiber, Dylan, your favorite topic to talk about, so I won't say too much about fiber. Antioxidants, all those things, all the things that are essential for an overall healthy body. These foods are going to help with gut health. They're going to help reduce inflammation, improve immune function. There's so much emphasis on the macronutrients. If you are in the health and wellness space, you hear people talking about the macronutrients, proteins, fats, and carbs all the time, and neglecting to talk about the micronutrients, because there's some nuance that comes with that. But I think how we've outlined it here. If you get your 3 servings of fruit, 3 servings of vegetables, and then your 1 serving of legumes a day, odds are, if you do that, day after day, odds are your micronutrients are going to be just fine.
Yeah, this one's so relevant because people love to buy their supplements and their vitamins.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I was that way for a long time. I had my vitamin stack, you name it, vitamin D, vitamin C, all these different things. And I remember shortly after I had my son, I got sick like 3 times in 3 weeks. It was brutal. And so I went to the doctor and I was like, what the fuck is going on here? I can't get healthy. I don't know what's going on. Should I be supplementing? Should I be taking a multivitamin? And he said to me, that's where I got this from. He said to me, no, you will get your vitamin and micronutrient needs if you're eating 3 servings of fruit, 3 servings of vegetables, and a serving of legumes a day. And I thought that was really astute and important because we have to eat anyways. We don't need to be spending all of this money on all of these vitamins and supplements. We can get this stuff from the food that we eat. The reason that supplements and vitamins have become so popular is for 2 reasons. One, good marketing, making us believe we need something we don't, or two, we eat so shitty. We eat so much, ultra heavily processed food that we're not getting the micronutrients that we require. And food is the best source of these things. It's what our body knows. It's the easiest way for our body to assimilate these different vitamins and micronutrients. And so this is really critically important. On the fiber point, legumes have benefits that go beyond fiber from a micronutrient point of view. But I do think it's worth talking about legumes as sort of the conduit to fiber as well, because I think getting 30 to 40 grams of fiber per day is critically important. The rates of colon cancer are going up significantly, especially in younger people. And we know from studies that adequate fiber intake is the most important thing you can do to mitigate risk factors for colon cancer. It's really important for a number of things we've talked about before. Generation of short chain fatty acids, which have all these different health benefits. Taking a good poop, which there's nothing better than that. So this is really what it's about. Eat your fruits and vegetables to get your micronutrients and vitamin needs. Get
Yeah,
enough fiber every day and stop worrying about these fancy, even like probiotics. Like if you're not eating
totally.
3 servings of fruit, 3 servings of vegetables, and a serving, an adequate amount of fiber, the probiotic isn't going to fucking matter
Well, it's not
anyways.
doing anything because
So
they don't have the prebiotics
n-
to
nothing to eat.
eat. So yeah, I mean, it's
Exactly right.
ridiculous, man. And I
So from a
like,
dietary standpoint,
go ahead.
this, yeah, no, from a dietary standpoint, this is huge. I'll let you make the final point here.
Well, I mean, it's expanding on, and this is another conversational technique here, Dylan. This is expanding upon a point that you made earlier that I really liked. And what you said was you're already spending the money and you're already spending this money. You are buying
Yeah.
groceries you have to eat. So now, and that's where, these fancy marketers are preying on people. They're preying on your insecurities and they're getting you to spend even more money on stuff when what you really could be doing is just having fun with making dinner, having fun choosing snacks. Like make it something where you are experimenting with different, fruits, veggies, things like that to find out what you like and how you get those servings in. But if you're somebody that is a picky eater and is not really into trying a whole bunch of new stuff. I mean, this is where our big fucking smoothie idea comes in. You can blend up
Hmm.
so many fruits and veggies into a smoothie and make it delicious. So, I mean, I guess that would just be like my piece of advice for the listeners. If you're not a picky eater, I would use this as an opportunity to just have some fun with cooking and try new things. But if you are, then make a big smoothie and you're gonna find that you're gonna be able to sneak all kinds of stuff in there.
And if you're thinking to yourself, how am I going to eat beans every day? Let me tell you that they have turned legumes into pasta
Yeah.
brilliantly.
Oh
I
yeah.
had chickpea pasta with some pesto for dinner tonight. Really good source of fiber, great way to get those legumes. And a good segue into the next topic here because legumes are high in protein.
Mm-hmm.
And the next point to make here is you have to be getting sufficient protein every day with every meal. The benefits of protein are also really understated. I mean, we think about protein as like really important for building muscle. And I think beyond that, we don't really recognize how important protein is. It's definitely critical for muscle growth and repair, but muscle growth and maintaining muscle supports your metabolism. We've talked about that before. Um, it promotes satiety, right? So eating protein versus carbohydrates and fats makes you fuller. So when you eat enough protein, you're going to be motivated to eat less. It's important for healthy skin, hair, and nails, right? The collagen trend has become really popular as a supplement. Really, that's not all that important. You can just get that from eating adequate protein. But it's important for your immune system. It's important for maintaining a hormonal balance. It's important for recovery, not just recovery with regards to your muscles, but tissues, cells. They're the building blocks of those things. So, the benefits of protein are endless, and we really need to be focusing on how we get enough of it every day.
Yeah, and this is another one of those that, the supplement companies are going to quickly turn and say, well, oh, I mean, instead of, filling up on all of this, all these other proteins, why don't you just take a scoop of our protein powder, and here's 20 to 25 grams. Um, and it costs $80 for a 30-day serving, So this is another one of those things that um these companies, these supplement companies have done a really good job of making it seem like they found the answer to you not being able to get enough protein. But as we know, there are a ton of benefits to getting your protein from these whole sources. I mean, if we're talking about animal products, you've got, your things like your creatine, and then if you're talking about things like organ meats, there's even more, all different types of vitamins and minerals that go in there. But then, like you said with the legumes, if you are a vegetarian or vegan, or if you just are looking to boost up the protein in your meals, there's so many other benefits that we just talked about, like the fiber that come from eating your protein. So if you're somebody that is, really, really struggling to get enough protein, I do think that, something like having some protein powder, uh, it would be helpful. But actually, here, give me a second because I'm going to pull this. I'm going to pull this up. I just saw this on Instagram, and it was. Did you know that Parmesan cheese has 35.8 grams of protein in about 100 grams, and it's about like 300 calories. So the numbers, the number is really, really good. But we're talking about cheese, Dylan, that is,
Yeah.
better, that is going to have a better nutritional profile than any protein powder on the market. So, I don't necessarily buy the fact that, it's too hard to get, your proteins from whole foods. It's just something that people don't think about and don't prioritize enough.
Yeah, man. Meat is pound for pound from a micronutrient point of view, the greatest source of micronutrients.
Sure.
So those fruits, vegetables are really important. But if you're a meat eater, if you're receptive to eating meat, eating healthy cuts of meat is a great way to get those vitamins, minerals, nutrients. So again, you can skip spending all your money on this bullshit and just eat a healthy, balanced diet, and you will get what you need. You do not need to be throwing all of this stuff on top. Get these big rocks right first. And once you've habitualized these, you're doing these consistently, you want to look to some of those extra things, have at it. But until you have these right, it's not worth spending a dime on any of that other stuff.
Yeah, and this is one of the few areas that, I mean, I think, both Dylan and I would agree, is worth not necessarily tracking on a daily basis, but tracking for a minute, just and becoming more aware of how much protein you're actually consuming. There is, the range of protein intake seems to be between about zero point 0.8 to 1.2 grams of protein per pound of your healthy body weight. So if a healthy body weight for you is, let's just say, 200 pounds, then you should be shooting for, right around that 200 pounds of protein. That zero point 0.8 would be what, 160. So, minimum 160 grams of protein a day. And, so you can, once you kind of just have that number in mind and you understand how much protein on average you're getting on a daily basis, it becomes a lot easier to, make those healthy decisions, figure out, where you're going to, what you're going to have for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, because you know about how much protein you need to get out of each of those meals to make sure you're hitting your target.
Yeah, and you can live, at the lower end of that if you're not really hyper focused on building muscle. If you're active in the gym and you're strength training consistently, you probably want to lean a little bit more towards the higher end of that
Well,
range.
and if
So
you're older too, because the older you get, the
you
harder
bet.
it becomes to build and maintain muscle. And so even if you're not, pushing heavy weights in the gym, which,
Good point.
which if you are getting older, I think there's a ton of value in doing that too. But, a lot of science nowadays is recommending being at that on that higher end, even if you're not super active, but you're just getting older. Okay, let's go to the last topic. I like how you structured this, Dylan, because this is probably the second most important thing, and you saved it for last. So we get to go
Not
out
intentional.
on a banger. And this one, it's simple as hell. It's drink more water. Hydration is crucial for every single bodily function, digestion, cognitive function, physical performance, you name it. Dehydration is going to be a negative factor. It's going to lead to fatigue. It's going to lead to impaired exercise and performance, increased hunger. There are so many bad things that come with being dehydrated, and you know we're very fortunate. We live in a country, and we, places in this country where we have access to clean, safe, healthy drinking water for free all the time. And a lot of people are in that same boat where all you got to do is turn on your tap, or we use a water filter. We're on well water here, so we do filter out our water, but just go over to the water filter and open up the tap, and good drinkable water comes out. There are no good excuses to be dehydrated in 2024. So this really is something that you gotta prioritize, because if you are dehydrated, the problem is realistically you're just not making it a priority.
Yeah, I mean, there's no excuse for this one. Like sleep, as I stated, I think is the biggest rock. This one comes shortly after that. There's some justifiable excuses maybe for why you're not getting enough sleep, but
Mm-hmm.
not drinking enough water is just crazy. And it's so important for so much more than just simply being hydrated, right? Like it's critical for digestion, really important for cognitive function. Dehydration can impair your focus, your memory, your mood. There's times where I don't drink enough water and I almost get anxiety.
Totally.
Um, like, and that's a real thing. Really important for kidney function. Like all these people are trying to sell this stuff uh to detox, right? Take this and it'll detox your body. Your body detoxes on its own. Your liver and your kidneys serve that purpose. And so what you need to do is you need to give your kidneys and your liver the things that they need to work efficiently. And what are those things? Fruits, vegetables, protein, and fucking water, right?
Yeah,
Like water is crucial for kidney function. It's going to help you remove that waste and those toxins from the body through your piss. Um, so water is so easy and so important. And if you're not getting, roughly 8 ounces an hour, depends on the person, how active you are, how much you're sweating, and how much healthy minerals you're getting through your diet. We've talked a little bit about the importance of electrolytes with water. You can definitely drink too much, especially if the electrolytes aren't properly balanced. The easiest way to do this, you don't need to go spend a bunch of money on some, you know, salt in a packet or whatever it is. We like them. I use them frequently,
I
right?
love
But
them.
I'm eating a relatively whole foods diet, where really the only sodium I'm getting is from the salt I put on my food. If you're eating a whole bunch of processed food and you're taking those electrolyte supplements on top of that, you're probably getting almost too much sodium at that point. Um, But what you can do here is just be more good, just be better at salting your food with a good healthy salt, right? Like um that's another way to get your electrolytes balanced. So super important, super free. Maybe like you said, you're on a well, you get your water tested. There's some stuff you're a little concerned about. You could put a sink unit in or have some sort of a filter, but make sure you're getting enough water every day. Big rock.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so how do I know if I'm getting enough water? Well, you've probably heard this before. Check the color of your pee. If it is a dark, like if it is a dark yellow, almost like an apple juice color, then you are certainly not getting enough water. On the opposite side of that, if you are peeing clear all day long, you probably are a little overhydrated. You shouldn't, your pee should have a little, little tinge to it. Um, Here's a novel one. If you feel thirsty, you probably need to drink water.
Yeah.
But the best way that you can do this is to ritualize it. So I know for me, one of the very first things that I do in the morning, I get out of bed. The first thing I do when I come down my stairs is I head over to my water filter. I already have a glass sitting out there, and it's 2 to 3 glasses of water as quickly as I can. And I know that putting that much liquids in people's bodies, first thing in the morning isn't always the best. It's not going to work for everybody, but it works really well for me. So that's something that's worth trying out. But then also, it's just every time you sit down for a meal, make sure that you have a glass of water with it. Before if you like to sit down on the couch and watch a show, before bed, have some water with you. Just find things that you're already doing in your daily life, and just find a way to add a glass of water to it, or get one of those fun big ass jugs. And it says you can find ones now that say, like, that have like time marks on it. You only have to fill it up once a day. And it'll say like 8 a.m., keep drinking, and like stupid little motivational messages along the way. But like, if that's honestly going to help you drink more water, I mean, I guess, like, go for it. It probably can't be that expensive, but I also would say that the person that requires the big ass jug to say they're going to drink more water probably needs to just focus on drinking the water first, and then after 30 days of consistent water drinking, then they can celebrate by buying the big ass jug.
So these are 5 things.
Oh,
Get these are
hold
Oh, you
on.
got
I,
some
I
else?
I have one more thing about water. I overheard this in the gym the other day, and it was so stupid that I wanted to share it. I heard a couple people talking, and one of the people was talking about how much water they drink in a day, and the other person said, "Well, what kind of water are you drinking?" Because that certain types of water actually are unhealthy for you. Um, unless you're drinking tainted water, river water, stagnant water, or water that has been deemed, you know, uh, unsafe to drink by a governing body, it does not matter whether it is still water, tap water, distilled water, glacial water, bottled water. It doesn't fucking matter. Drink your water and shut up about whether or not about having ionized water or whatever the new trend is now. Because you're making people, you're overcomplicating things, and you're making people think that the water they're drinking is unhealthy, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, these are the 5 boulders in the spectrum of rock, right? You go from like the boulder to the big rock to, smaller rocks to pebbles. The type of water you're drinking is fucking sand.
Sand, I
It
love
is
that.
It is like if you're going to Whole Foods and buying boxes of glass bottled water, that is like, oh my God.
Yeah,
Please, please, please. That is sand. If you've got all this stuff right and then you've got the next 15 things right and you really want to funnel down to that granular sand level, sure, go buy your, Mountain Spring,
whatever.
Glacier bottled, whatever the fuck it is. But otherwise, just drink enough water. Get it
Right,
from wherever you can get it. Yeah, if it's got Giardia or E. coli in it, stay the fuck away from it. But otherwise,
right.
you're gonna be okay.
Exactly.
So to wrap, these are 5 things. Get that. My challenge to every person listening to this is get really consistent at these 5 things. Your life will improve significantly from these. These are the 5 biggest rocks. And from there, you have the foundation then to go a bit further if you wish. And if you're the type of person that wants to get a bit more into longevity or whatever it is, then you can start to explore some of these other avenues of supplementation and whatnot. But that shit is not going to do anything for you if you don't have these 5 big rocks in place first. So stop spending your money on those things until you're sleeping consistently, you're moving your body, you're building and maintaining some muscle, you're eating your fruits and veggies and your fiber, you're focusing on protein, and you're drinking enough water.
Facts. All right, let's transition to the question and answer portion of the day. This was brought up by a client of mine, and they said, "Hey, I'm a big coffee drinker. Does coffee count towards my overall water intake, or do I need to cut back on coffee and switch to water?" So I said, I'm not going to answer this question right now. We're going to address it on the pod, and you can listen to it next week. And
Nice.
then then you'll get your answer finally. So, Dylan, because coffee is so near and dear to your heart, I'll let you answer first.
It's a great question, and the answer to it hinges on what this person means by a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So, from my knowledge, maybe Matt, you can look this up while I answer, but I think they recommend 400 milligrams of caffeine a day or less. Anything over than that, more than that, starts to get come with some risks. So the amount of coffee you're drinking, you'd want to be thinking about the amount of caffeine that you're then taking in. And I think 400 milligrams, like you could think like I think like a 12-ounce cup of coffee is about 100 milligrams. So like 4 cups of coffee a day is probably okay from a caffeine point of view. Um, Anything beyond that, you might want to think about curtailing your caffeine intake. And 4 12-ounce cups of coffee is definitely not going to be enough water in a given day. So
Right.
you want to be drinking more water than that, anyways. Caffeine is also a light diuretic. So if you're just drinking coffee, you're probably going to be flushing that water through your body pretty quickly and not assimilating it in the cells like you need to. So I guess my high level recommendation to this person, not knowing them, was I'd think about kind of curbing my coffee intake at around 4 cups a day, and then looking to that goal of roughly 8 ounces of water per day. You could certainly count the 48 ounces in those 4 cups in the total daily water intake. You're getting the water. It's absolutely okay. Um, or pivoting to decaf. I mean, when we're talking about being hydrated and getting water, water is the easiest place to go to that. You get some water from your food. Like if you're eating watermelon, you're getting a ton of water. Um, so there are other places you get water from. But yeah, my high level recommendation would be try to stick around 400 milligrams of caffeine max, maybe pivot to decaf a bit, and really think about focusing on that goal of 8-ish ounces per hour of the day that you're awake.
Yeah. The only thing that I have to add to that is that it used to be the thought that coffee was dehydrating. That used to be the stigma. As you mentioned, caffeine is a mild diuretic, so it can increase your urine production, but it is not. Coffee is not dehydrating because it is mostly water.
It's water. Yeah,
So
like 99% water.
should it be the only thing that you're drinking? No, and you nailed it. Your math was exactly right. 400 milligrams was the max recommended dosage, and a cup of coffee has about 100 milligrams a cup. So, yeah, 3 to 4 cups of coffee a day. If it works for your body, probably fine. Now, I think that it's important for everybody to do, a regular or semi-regular caffeine fast because of the effects that it can have on your brain. And, caffeine is one of those things that the more that you use it, the more your body requires to have those same effects. So if you feel like those, you started out, you only needed 1 cup of coffee to get your rush, and now it's up to two, and then three, and now four barely does anything. I would recommend just take a couple weeks off coffee. Try to take a full month off coffee, and I bet you when you come back, you're going to feel like a lightweight, and it's going to be awesome. But yeah, it's fine to drink coffee. It does count towards your overall fluid intake, but water, regular plain old water should be it should be your bell cow back as far as your fluids go.
Yeah, you're who's the bell cow this year? There's a few of them. You're a Ramondre Stevenson. You're
Mm-hmm. Saquon Barkley.
Isaiah Pacheco. You're Saquon Barkley.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Coffee's healthy. I think I said this on the podcast before. It's the number one source of antioxidants in the average American's diet.
Oh yeah,
which
that's
is
interesting.
Pretty,
but it
pretty
makes
crazy
sense
to think about. But too much of any good thing becomes a bad thing, and it's really about that caffeine. As you know, I'm a coffee enthusiast. I don't even drink that much coffee. I have maybe like 16 ounces of coffee a day. And over the weekend, we were on that golf trip. Saturday morning, we had an early tea time. The coffee in the breakfast restaurant tasted like an asshole.
It was bad.
So I took one little sip of it and didn't drink it. And then I got out on the golf course and I had a headache all day. So like just showing me how even that little bit of coffee I have every day I'd become reliant on and was essentially withdrawing from. I mean, caffeine is a drug at the end of the day. So yeah, I mean, moderate your coffee intake for caffeine purposes. Get enough water. It's about the balance in that.
Absolutely. All right, time to bring it home with the I Lift a sad song of the week. Dylan, I've been rocking the tank top a lot recently, and
Yes.
every time that I wear it, somebody comments on it. They think it's awesome. People are loving it. And so maybe what we should do is come up with a version of the tank top with a QR code that links to the playlist.
That's probably an easy addition. I love that.
It's a sweet idea. I just thought of that.
Yeah.
My addition to the playlist this week, this is a super sad song. It's by our girl Samia, and it is There Something in the Movies? It is one of the saddest, most beautifully sad songs that I have ever heard. This one actually, some people I might get a little pushback from some people as to whether or not this is a good sad song to lift to. I will tell you, it's good for me. So just try it before you judge.
Yeah, there's something to like a truly sad slow song.
Mm-hmm.
Having this really power, like I remember when you and I were going for deadlift PRs and I videotaped them, and I don't remember the song, but it's just a slow like sad song in the background.
It actually
and I
might have been Samia. It might have been.
It might have been. I remember ripping that weight. Like there's something to that.
Exactly.
So yeah, I don't actually know the song, so I'm gonna have to give it a listen. But I would agree with you that before you judge it, and even before you judge it without lifting to it, put it on and have a lift to it and see how it works for you.
Exactly. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. We love you all so much. We'll see you next time.